Welcome to the Pen Leader Podcast, where strategic leaders get straight to the topics, strengthening our awareness and sharpening our minds. The Pen Leader Podcast is produced by Roar, a production division of Mays & Associates Ltd. Find out more at www.maysassociatesltd.com. Now here is your award-winning host, Dr. Shanda Gore.
And welcome to the Pen Leader Podcast. Today, we're going to talk about Rotary roots and community impact. And I am so glad to have with me today Miss Candice Harrison, who is the Director of Inclusion and Community Impact at SSOE. She has also been voted in as the 26th-27th President of the Rotary Club of Toledo and is the first African American to serve in that role. Ms. Harrison is a lifelong community connector who serves as a corporate social responsibility and inclusion leader at SSOE. She has more than 20 years of experience helping organizations lead with clarity and intention. While her current work focuses on philanthropy, social impact, community engagement, and equity, she also has a 16-year background in public relations and strategic communications. Ms. Harrison has a bachelor's in communication from the University of Toledo and a master's in communication leadership from Spring Arbor University. She believes that strong communication creates connection, and connection is what leads to lasting community impacts. So, without further ado, welcome, Ms. Candice.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I am so excited to have you here on the show and to talk about your vision and Rotary. I'm a proud Rotarian for a number of years now, and I have the privilege of being able to really talk with the presidents that are incoming and talk with them about what their vision is and what they're seeing as a mission. So I'm going to get right around that service above self. For those that don't know what Rotary is, what does that phrase mean to you personally as you begin your term as president?
The phrase is very important to me because basically it means that in leadership, you have to be willing to serve others and put yourself last. There's a book by Simon Sinek called Leaders Eat Last, which is basically that in itself. To be an effective leader, you have to see yourself as a servant to your team. And so I think in this community and in Rotary in general, most of the people who are members really take that seriously. If you go to Toledo Rotary member meetings, if you go to district meetings, Rotary International, anything, you'll really see that there is power in service and the people in Rotary believe that. So to me, it's very important that in this leadership role, people see me as a servant to the club. I'm here to do the work of the Rotary Club of Toledo, and that means to deliver on our mission in our community.
Excellent. And I can see you wear that proudly as a badge there. Can you explain a little bit about that pen for those that can't see it? It's a beautiful pen that and again, Rotarians, we wear our badges, but can you explain that pen?
So this pen, I actually got it at the All Ohio President-elect's training. I bought it because I was really excited about the new theme. Our new Rotary International president, his name is Olainka Babaloa, and he has named the theme for this upcoming Rotary year as creating lasting impact. And that is what my pen says, just in honor of the transition for me becoming president, but also under the leadership of a new international president and his mission for the organization. And I think it's really important as we think about creating lasting impact. That means that we're not just working for today. We're doing work now that we hope leaves a legacy.
Excellent. Yes, I'm always thinking now. I think as I gotten older, I think about long term and
Yes,
legacy. It comes up more. Would you
it
agree?
sure does. It really does.
Your presidential approach includes leading with connection, engagement, and clarity. Why are those three ideas so important right now?
Well, I think, it's interesting if you think about kind of some of my goals, they're very much aligned with who I am as a person. And I think that authentic leadership is really key to leadership. And I think that was also part of how I was elected into this role, because one of the things, anybody who knows me and knows in whatever environment I'm in, I'm always going to be myself. And I'm a lifelong Toledo, and I was born and raised here. I lived walking distance from where the Rotary office is, walking distance from where our Rotary meetings are. I'm very deeply committed to this community. So, one of the things, service above self days, I think if we are an organization who says that, we need to practice what we preach. And this was something that was started by a previous president that was such a wonderful impact to the community. The club loved it. We kept it after, that president was gone, and the president who's my predecessor also kept it. And I want to keep it going too, because our club really gets an opportunity to, instead of going to a meeting, go out into the community in large groups and serve. And I think it's good for us to get out from a visibility standpoint, for people to really see us walking the walk of what we say. But it also gives us an opportunity to be boots on the ground in the community, because it's one thing to say, I'm in Rotary, we do a lot for the community, but Rotary, the brand, is who they see, but they need to start seeing Rotary, the members. So that's why one of the things when I say service above self, keeping those in the forefront of what we do. And connection and clarity. Clarity really comes from thinking about making sure people are aware, what is Rotary really about? You're in it. It's an organization that people really, kind of connect with. Leadership, leaders in our community, people in our community that are in the business world, nonprofit world, and we come together each Monday and we have a meeting. But the Monday meeting really is such a small fraction of everything that we do as an organization. So I really want to make sure our current members and new incoming members really feel strongly about the work that we do, and they have a full understanding. If somebody caught them on an elevator, they will be able to tell them in 20 seconds what we're about and why they should be a member. And connection, when you are engaged in something, you know the people around you, you have a relationship, you don't have to be best friends, but when you understand the person sitting next to you, you're more than likely going to be more engaged in an organization. So I think engagement, connection is so important.
I do. I talk about that that communication component, I know with the 3 Cs, and showing care, taking the moment to just engage with someone who may be different from you, and
Mhm.
but you have a common purpose and a mission, and that's where Rotary, everybody can agree that if you're sitting there, you've agreed already that service above self is why you should be there, and then you need to act it out. I mean, to your point, and that's being seen.
Mhm.
One of the priorities is strengthening engagement across the Rotaract clubs as well. I'm noticing that there's a lot more engagement there, which some people may not understand Rotaract versus Rotary. Why is it important to involve younger leaders in service?
Well, that also kind of is connected to that national or international theme, creating lasting impact. And the way to create lasting impact is to start building up that next generation. So Rotaract is our young professionals that starts, 18 and up, and really is attractive to early career, younger professionals who have a heart for service, but they do lots of fun opportunities. They spend a lot of time bonding, but also bonding over the work of Rotary. And so I think a first step in making sure that they carry on the legacy of Rotary is to make sure that they're tapped in and they're connected to what we do. And the best way to do that is to include them. We have Interact, which is in high schools, Rotaract, younger professionals. Those are going to be the people who sustain Rotary. So the best way to me to get them interested and wanting to be a part of what we do and wanting to carry that legacy on is to be included in it so that they have that investment.
Let's talk about that because you're really talking about succession planning, not as a direct way, but really as an intentional way of getting people
Yes.
involved. And I think that that's another thing about Rotary. I would love some of the modeling, especially with corporations and businesses I know I work with. Succession planning is a discussion. Can you talk about, especially with your road to be president, and how you're talking about this younger generation getting involved to be the future for Rotary? Can you talk about that succession planning and how that road got you where you are today?
Okay, so a lot of people are like, "Oh my goodness, were you surprised, when you became or was elected president of the club?" And I was like, "Well, actually, no. I was aware of this several years ago because the organization is very strategic in its succession." So fortunately, Rotary Club of Toledo always knows us like a few presidents in advance, like who's coming up. And so when I accepted the role of being vice president, it was with the understanding that I would then be president-elect and later president. So it started off when I came on the board in service, and then in the future, someone approached me and asked, well, how would I feel about being vice president? And then they said, then, once you're vice president, then you would become president-elect, and then you would be president in a few years. And so I actually had to think about that because capacity, I wanted to make sure I had the capacity. It fell at the right time. I have a daughter who just graduated high school last month. Well,
Congratulations.
thank you, almost 2 months ago now, and I've been really committed to my family my whole career, and so I did not want anything to, take away from that because this is a big role that requires a lot of attention and responsibility. So I wanted to make sure that I could honor my commitment as a mom, as a wife, but also honor my responsibility to Rotary. I'm also involved in a lot of things outside of that. I'm involved in the community. I serve on several boards. I'm involved in my sorority, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. And I wanted to make sure that I wasn't biting off more than I could chew. But I decided to go ahead and take it on because, as I said in my speech, once I was installed as president, that I understand the mantle that I carry. And so if I was going to be the one to even be offered that opportunity for this club, I wasn't going to decline it. I need other people who look like me to see Rotary as a place that they belong. And I also want to bridge the gap between what people think about Rotary and what Rotary truly is.
I think that's important too. I think the board, like how you came onto the board is really important. And then
Mhm.
from the selection from that, making sure again that you're doing what you need to do to fulfill the requirements of Rotary too. I don't want people to think that it's like you get on the board and no, there's donating to the cause and putting your time and effort and resources toward what Rotary stands for. So
And serving a committee first, you gotta serve on a committee, you have to attend, there's attendance requirements for you to even be considered for board membership.
yes, yes.
So it's a lot that goes into it because they just wanna make sure this is not like a resume builder, that you're a worker, because we are certainly a working board. We meet quite a bit and, we decide pretty much everything for the club, and the club is counting on us to be responsible in this way. So when you take this on, that's what you're taking on.
So true. And it's important too. I give hats off to leaders out there that say, yeah, I'm not interested in the board. I understand the importance of the board, but you've already self selected knowing that you don't have the time. So that
Yes.
why even be considered? But I also want to commend those that lift others up and say, but you should consider this to be on the board.
Mhm.
And this really strikes out with those leaders out there that are looking succession planning within their own organizations.
Yes.
What does that look like? And the capacity. If the person doesn't have the capacity right now, doesn't mean they're out for the count for the rest of the time. Come back to them.
And I just think 2 things. 1, don't assume a person doesn't have capacity. That's something that I experience a lot when I'm in decision-making rooms. Is someone like, "Well, she just had a baby." Like, "Well, did she tell you that because I just had a baby means I'm not available to do X, Y, and Z?" And if she didn't tell you that, it's not for you to assume that. You should ask. So I think that's one thing. People often assume a person's capacity because of what you are privileged to know about them. But then at the same time, if you don't have capacity, then you should say no. And I am good at that now. I had to get there though, because there was a time I say yes to everything. And now I accept the opportunities that I feel like are aligned with who I am as a person. Rotary, again, this was the perfect time because having a daughter graduate, it really, I won't say it frees up my time, but it frees up my time doing things outside of my workday. I'm not attending athletic events. I'm not attending, honor society inductions
I
and,
remember those
all
days.
of those things and trying to keep up with, just
Yes.
the schedule of a young adult. So I don't have that anymore. And also, it'll keep me busy so that I'm not grieving the loss of my baby girl going away to college
Aw.
like I did when my first one went to college. I was just so sad. I missed him. I'm still a mom to the core. Still a
Love
mom.
that. I love that. Love that. Love that. We talk about attributes of for the strongest leaders to be part of an organization. And I talk about being sharp, being educated and experienced to bring that to the mantle, whatever that mantle is. And then also having a pathway, a straightforward with a ability to pivot, and then the strength of character. How would you rank that, especially for a role like this with those attributes? Where do you think is the most strongest that you should come in when you're coming into a presidency like this?
So I think the strongest would be having the education and experience to lead. And I say that because one of the things people will tell you on the board, any organization I'm in, I'm passionate about the documents. What do our bylaws say? What do our rules say? Because we have governing documents for a purpose. And the phrase without the absence of order is chaos. And that's why you have governing documents for the purpose of order to help you. You have the framework and the map. So when you're sitting around like, well, what should we do? Or what about this? Or how do we do that? Well, what does our rules say we should do? So that's simple. So I think educating yourself on if you're on a board or if you're in an organization that has bylaws or if you're, doing anything that has some governing documents of any kind, it could be a charter for your company, it could be company handbook, whatever it is. What does the documentation say about where you are? If it's a job, if it's a board, whatever it is. I think that's really important because if you don't have the education, and it doesn't mean education like a bachelor's degree, whatever education you need to be in that spot, if you don't have it, then you're already at a disadvantage. You can't lead people if you don't know, if you just don't know what you're doing. So I think that's to me the first thing. The second thing I would say is definitely being able to weather challenges because in leadership, there's always going to be challenge because you are responsible. And some of the challenges are just people. When you're in a position of leadership, it often puts you in a position that people may not like you because they don't like your decisions. Because you also can't be a yes person. You can't be a people pleaser and be a good leader because you got to be able to say no. And sometimes people don't want to say no because they don't want to hurt people, or you need to be able to say the same thing you said in this room, in that room. So if I said no over here, I don't care who's in this room, I'm going to say no again. I'm not going to shift my perspective based on who I'm around. And I think you need to have the fortitude to be able to do that in leadership. And so I think weathering challenges with people, but then things happen with organizations. Think Rotary was in existence during COVID. We had to, and it happened right at the beginning of an incoming president's year when we pivoted to virtual.
Yes,
So all of the
I
things that he
remember.
probably was looking forward to, when you get to become a president, he didn't get to experience those in the same way because we were virtual. However, we pivoted, we figured it out, and his legacy is he was our president when we still had to be at home.
That
And we got to, we had some of our greatest speakers we've had in a long time during COVID because we could get them because we were virtual. So I think being able to weather challenges would be next. And then staying on track with strategic planning and ability to pivot when you need to. I think that's just kind of a part of life is what is a saying that says if you don't have a plan then you can plan to fail. You must plan. So you have
Yes,
to you
yes.
have to have some sort of strategy around where you're trying to go. I mean, in my department, that's something that we do annually. The company that I work for, we bring all of our corporate leaders together from all over our global footprint to one location, and we spend 3 days, well, 2.5, planning for the upcoming year every single year. And then we do it again for our talent review and, succession and advancement in the company. And we look at this annually because you have to have some sort of direction for what's happening in the future. You can't just wake up, each year and be like, okay, let's do this. No, you have to think ahead. At the company I work for, our plan is all the way to 2030 right now. We're planning all the way that far out. And so I think having a strategy is important, but I think in order, but all three of those things are critical to being a leader. And again, like I always say fortitude because as I've, moved throughout my career, and I don't want to say I'm as high as I would like to go in my career, because obviously I would always like to continue to advance and grow as an individual. I'm getting a little older, but I still think I have a lot of leadership left in me. But I do know the further I get moving up in ranks, the more opportunities you have to be in leadership. And unfortunately, the more opposition you face. And I face opposition, I think, as a woman, And opposition doesn't always look like a person just doesn't like you. It could just be a person is not being respectful in meetings, a person is talking over you, or a person isn't valuing your opinion, a person isn't hearing your opinion. And I think when I talked about fortitude, that's something that when you're in those rooms and someone says, "Oh, I don't mean to cut you off," you need to say, "But you did. Allow me to finish." You need to be comfortable doing that, and don't get me wrong, I wasn't always that comfortable, but I had a lot of experiences that I sat silent and didn't say anything, and it just troubled me so long after that because I know in work, this is how I feel. But like in my life, this is not, I wouldn't allow that in my life. So I had to stop being a different way at work and code switching. Like I had to stop being different at work than I was in life. And once I got that balance, and I also had to unrough some edges too throughout that process. So it could all be aligned. But now I feel like I'm the person that I am is the person that I am also at work.
Well, I can't thank you enough for coming on and just not only just explaining your vision and how moving this forward and really educating the audience on what Rotary is standing for and what you can expect when you come. I'm always inviting somebody like, come have lunch, try to see what this is about because
Yes.
that helps like squash some of like, I didn't know, or I thought it was this and it really wasn't. It was
Yes,
this. So
exactly.
I can't thank you enough for coming on the show. Thank you, Candice.
And I'm so appreciative just knowing the kinds of guests you've had on this show. I'm really honored that you would ask me and really thankful for the opportunity.
Aw, thank you so much. And we'd like to also thank our listeners for sharing the show and liking it. We so appreciate you. We also would like your feedback. If you have feedback or thoughts, and for those Rotarians out there, we'd love to hear from you too at
Yes.
Yes, yes. At info@mazeassociatesltd.com, and we will definitely get that over to our Rotary for any feedback. We'd also like to thank our sponsors today. We'd like to thank the Maine Intelligence Network. Come be a part of the focus network of entrepreneurs, leaders, executives, and authors committed to sharpening leadership and strategy while scaling ventures with intention. This is a place where practical thinking meets high caliber connection. Check out the Maine at www.mazeassociatesltd.com. We'd also like to thank our sponsor, Mavalino Custom Home Builders, where they build custom homes with superior quality, value, and integrity. And of course, until next time.
The Pen Leader podcast is hosted by Dr. Shanda Gore and brought to you by Maze & Associates Ltd., creating customized solutions for growth in the areas of leadership development, strategic planning, and culture building. Find out more at www.mazeassociatesltd.com. Don't forget to subscribe to the Pen Leader podcast and share with others.